Ashes of Elysium, HFY Sci-Fi story. The planet Elysium Prime was known as the crown of humanity's frontier, a beautiful blue and green world that humans had turned into paradise. Its skies were clear, its oceans deep, and its cities glowed like jewels in the night. Farmers tilled the red soil, children played under the twin suns, and people believed the galaxy had finally accepted their presence. But peace never lasts long for humanity. When the Galactic Dominion's fleet appeared in orbit, no warning came, no message, no demand, only a shadow spreading across the sky. People first thought it was a trade convoy or a diplomatic visit. Then the first beam of plasma hit the northern continent, and a city vanished in light. The second strike followed, and the atmosphere burned. The screams of billions echoed through the comnet. One by one, the colony's shields failed, and the world began to die. Governor Layla Hart stood in the control tower, watching the horizon melt into fire. Her voice trembled as she spoke into the emergency transmitter. "This is Elysium Prime. Under attack. Unknown reason. They are destroying everything," Static answered, but she kept talking. "If anyone hears this, tell Earth. Tell them. They burned us alive," she pressed send, knowing it was the last thing she would ever do. Moments later, the tower was gone, swallowed by the storm of energy raining from the stars. Far away on the edge of Sol system, inside Command Fortress Geneva, a signal flickered across the hollow screen. Admiral Marcus Reyes leaned forward as the data came through. The image of a burning planet filled the room. For a long time no one spoke. Technicians froze, officers stared, and the hum of machines felt like silence itself. Then Reyes stood up, his voice calm but sharp. "Confirm the source," he ordered. "Confirmed, sir," replied the comm officer. "It's from Elysium Prime." Reyes closed his eyes for a second, then opened them with a cold fire. "Activate Wrath Protocol," he said. The room went still. No one had heard those words in centuries. Across the solar system, encrypted signals began to wake sleeping systems. Old satellites turned toward the stars. Secret shipyards deep within the asteroid belt powered on. In the depths of Luna Base, heavy blast doors opened for the first time in 200 years. Inside were warships that had never been listed in any record. Names painted on their sides read Leviathan, Nemesis, Retribution. They had been built for one reason: to avenge humanity if it ever faced extinction again. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. From the domes of New Berlin to the towers of Pacifica, people stopped working. Screens everywhere showed the last image from Elysium. A burning horizon, a voice crying for help. Rage began to replace sorrow. Mothers wept. Soldiers clenched their fists, and civilians gathered under one message: never again. In the orbit above Mars, Admiral Reyes addressed the United Human Council. "Elysium was not a mistake," he said. "It was a message. They believe we are weak. They believe we will bow down and beg for mercy. But they will learn that humanity does not beg. Humanity builds fleets." The council chamber erupted in motion. Every industrial colony, every shipyard, every mining platform began full production. Cargo ships carried ore from the asteroid belt, energy cells from Jupiter's moons, and nanoforges from Titan. Humanity's heart had been struck, and its answer would be thunder on the edge of known space. Alien observers watched in disbelief. A Varan intelligence ship transmitted reports to the Dominion High Command. "Humans are mobilizing," it said. "Civilian population is volunteering. Shipyards are active." The Dominion laughed, thinking it was only noise, empty emotion. But the humans were not shouting, they were preparing. They were building something ancient, something unstoppable. Inside the dry dock of Earth's orbit, Commander Juno Vale walked among her engineers. The metal of the ship beneath her boots still glowed from construction heat. Her crew worked without rest, welding, testing, and fitting reactors. She looked at the holo display. The name of her ship was Iron Resolve. When a young officer approached her and asked, "Commander, will we really go to war?" she only replied, "No, we won't go to war. We will end it." As the sun rose over the Pacific, hundreds of orbital yards came alive. A network of engines ignited across space, creating streaks of blue light around Earth. Old veterans saluted as new pilots were sworn in. Humanity's wrath was not wild or blind. It was cold, focused, and united. That night, Admiral Reyes stood at the window of the command deck, watching the first of the Wrath Armada rise from dock. Each ship carried the memory of a world lost. Each engine burned with vengeance. He whispered to himself. They erased a human world. Now we will erase their pride. Behind him, the display screens lit up with reports. Fleet numbers, activation codes, deployment routes. Reyes turned to his officers and spoke quietly but with fire in his eyes. Remember this day, because when history tells our story, it will begin here, and somewhere beyond the stars. The Dominion's admirals celebrated their victory, unaware that they had just awakened something they could never control. The ashes of Elysium still floated in space, but from those ashes the fire of humanity was about to rise. The galaxy would soon learn the meaning of human wrath. The Summoning of Steel. HFY Sci-Fi story across the solar system. The call for vengeance echoed through the stars. Humanity had lost Elysium, but from that loss came unity. From miners on Ceres to engineers on Mars, every hand turned to steel, every forge burned brighter, every shipyard worked without rest. The Wrath Protocol had been awakened and humanity was no longer silent. On Luna Base Alpha, giant hangar doors opened, revealing ships that had slept for centuries. The old AI construct Argus came online, its voice cold and ancient. Fleet construction sequence initiated, it said. Rows of unfinished warships hung in zero gravity, their black hulls absorbing all light. Humans called them the Shadow Class, vessels built to vanish in the dark and strike without warning. One by one they came alive as reactors ignited and engines roared for the first time. On Mars, the massive shipyard known as Ares Ring rotated slowly above the planet's red dust. Thousands of workers in exosuits welded plates of armored titanium. Below them stood the frame of the first Leviathan-class dreadnought in 3 centuries. The UHS saw retribution. Its hull alone was the length of a continent, and its reactor could light a planet. Captain Ilaravos walked along the observation deck, her face lit by the red glow of Mars. She spoke to her crew, her voice steady and cold. They think Elysium broke us, but they only forged us, far beyond on the frozen moons of Saturn. Ancient facilities known as the Black Forges came to life, hidden since the old wars. These were not mere factories but monuments to human ingenuity. Deep underground, machines the size of mountains shaped metal with precision beyond any alien design. A hologram of Admiral Reyes appeared before the workers. His message simple: every bolt you weld, every ship you launch will carry the voice of Elysium. Remember why we build, from Earth's orbit to Neptune's edge. Transmissions spread with a single command code, Wrath 7. In response, hidden bases woke, dormant AIs reactivated, and forgotten fleets rose from cold storage. Old veterans who had once fought the Terran Wars put on their uniforms again. Young pilots lined up at recruitment stations where the poster read, "They burned one world, we'll burn their empire." The Dominion spies watching human space sent desperate messages home. "They are not crying, they are building," one report said. "They build as if the stars themselves are their forges." The Dominion High Council laughed, believing humans were too primitive to be a threat. But they had forgotten who the Deathworlders were, the creatures who had learned to turn every scar into steel. Inside the Solar Defense Network, engineers tested the new AI command core called Orion Zero. Its first task was to map every warp route between Sol and Dominion space. In less than an hour it plotted a path through nebulae, asteroid fields, and black holes. Every route was marked with a single phrase, Path of Retribution. As weeks passed, space around Earth turned bright with the light of thousands of engines. Civilian transport fleets were refitted into war convoys. Merchant ships armed with railguns and ion lances. Even the colony freighters were turned into carriers, their cargo holds filled with fighter drones. Every planet, every moon, every station gave something to the cause. Metal, fuel, and souls. Admiral Reyes stood before the Strategic Command Council and looked at the growing holomap of the fleet. Current count stands at 500,000 vessels and rising, an officer reported. Reyes nodded, his jaw tight. "Then we will build until the stars run out of space," he said. Behind him, the symbol of the United Human Federation burned bright. A flame wrapped around a planet. In the training fields of Luna, soldiers trained under artificial gravity, twice Earth's normal strength. "Make them feel the weight of our world," and their instructors shouted. Sniper units tested new plasma rifles capable of piercing ship hulls from orbit. Pilots practiced in simulations that mimicked Dominion formations, learning how to strike faster than their enemy could think. Every day the numbers rose, ships counted by hundreds of thousands. Crew by millions, they called it the Wrath Armada. But to the workers and pilots it was simply Elysium's revenge. Children sent drawings to the docks. Pictures of planets on fire and humans holding the line.